Hey, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Frank About Health. Today is November 9th, 2023. It is my birthday. So, this is a combination of a birthday episode. Why? Because it's the 99th episode. I was born on 11/9, and it is the 9/9 episode. Well, enough of the puns. What I'm really being frank about health today about is a stage of epilepsy known as stigma. Epilepsy that we have covered with Jeff Demitrack has covered the spectrum of various topics from auras to medications to post-ictal states to mental health aspects. But one fundamental attribute that most people living with epilepsy continue to go through on a day-to-day basis is that of social stigma. There is the one aspect of all of us learning to accept our lives with seizure disorder, no matter what the cause was or no matter what the circumstances have been. But then there are situations such as myself with this show, Jeff with his book, Dating in the Dark, and today our special guest, Madhulika Sundaram, who I will refer to as Madhu. I think you mentioned that was the best name to refer to you as, correct?
Yes.
Hey,
Hi.
how's it
Okay,
going?
okay, perfect.
Happy
It looks,
birthday.
Yes, happy birthday, Frank.
thank
Happy
you.
birthday to
To
you.
you.
Happy
Uh,
birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Frank. Happy birthday
Birthday
to
to
you.
you.
That is so cool. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I wish I could have that cake right now, but we are in a virtual world. Ladies and gentlemen, you're probably going to notice technical difficulties throughout. We have technical difficulties just in the show. I don't know what's on in the universe, why or what with us. You can at least hear us in our conversation throughout that hour. Overall, this is just an opportunity to reflect on the various stages of epilepsy. Jeff doing his best, but advocate for. He is dating a dark now of Audible, which is part of Amazon. At the same time, he's going to be hosting a conference in New Jersey over, I think, the 18th of November, which we'll talk about later. But I wanted to have Madhu's story about living life with epilepsy and dealing with the stigma. I think that is your primary challenge at this point, correct?
Yes, now it's a lot better. It was quite difficult the last year or two. And
Mm-hmm.
I struggled a little when I was in university 2 years ago in Switzerland
Oh, okay. I
with
mean,
the teachers. They were quite discriminative and harsh about it.
Mm.
And it was very
interesting.
difficult that no one seemed to really care in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
I had an issue where the dean was yelling at me for 20 minutes. And then actually, when I said, I couldn't come in because I had 20 seizures yesterday. So he said, blame your epilepsy. Why don't you?
Uh,
So,
that's
That
horrible.
is wrong.
and
That
this
is
went
wrong.
on
Really
for
horrible.
20 minutes in the lobby of the college, and students were just walking past, not one said a word. I was crying, and he was yelling at me for being epileptic and using depression and anxiety as excuses for not coming into class.
Mm.
And then said, why should I give you any of my time if you won't even come to my class just because you're epileptic? So, and finally,
Oh,
that one student out of 200 came and
mhm.
stood between the dean and me with her back facing him and asked me, are you okay? Turned around and said, stop talking to her like that. It's not okay. Yelled at the dean. He was
Mm.
really like a knight in shining armor.
Mm.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
and to think
that's horrible.
in a European country, aren't they more advanced when it comes to people living with epilepsy
That's
or
what
more
I
accepting?
think. But no, that university generally, they weren't very good about any of it. Lot
Mm.
of discrimination and favoritism and
Not very sympathetic, right?
no. And
Mm.
it was actually because I had been drugged. Someone drugged my drink. And
Oh, so they were associating your seizures with that incident rather than
no, so
epilepsy
they
itself.
didn't know I had been drugged. My seizures were associated with the drugging.
The drugging?
Yeah, it's actually, it goes back a little. It's when I had come off my medication.
Okay.
So during COVID, I decided that just before COVID, I had decided that since medication wasn't working for me, I was still having my partial seizures every 2 weeks, and I would have, and because when I was very stressed, I would have a grand mal seizure. So I decided with an Ayurvedic doctor that I was going to come off 2,000 milligrams of medication.
And what medication were you taking?
Well, I've actually taken every medicine I think that we know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at that level too. We were just talking about this on Instagram, actually, that, so many people that have refractory epilepsy, they've almost taken every medication. And it's really, you don't know what it has done to your body.
Yeah. I
Right.
discovered what it had done when I came off the medication. So I think I have taken Keppra, which was horrible. I think every person with epilepsy knows how terrible Keppra is. And all the people around you know, because you go into such a bad mood that you're yelling at everyone. It's
Yes.
really bad. And then I've taken, now I'm on lamotrigine 200.
Well,
Just
that would be the brand name is Lamictal, and that has a positive side effect. You notice more energy, things
Yes.
like that.
And now
Yes.
only 200. So I've really come from 2000 to 200, and I'm leaving it at the base dose, even though they, when I have extra seizures, they'll say, why don't you add something? And I say no. And
But there are mixed reviews on Lamictal. Some people have, good responses to it. Some people have bad responses.
yeah.
Or they have been controlled for a little while, or it's doing well, and then, one day they just have a bad reaction.
Yeah. And then
Right.
Briviact, I think at one point, Briviact, when it just came into the market, I was on that. And then if you name a few, but right now I don't remember.
Yeah. Keppra, Topamax, Zanisamide. Yeah.
Yes,
Ativan,
it was called
clonazepam,
something else in India, so I forgot what it was called.
Tegretol, Trileptal.
No, not those. No, I think those are the two I haven't been on.
Depakote,
I have to issue a few disclaimers before we continue. I didn't even yet do that. Ladies and gentlemen, most of the people watching this show more than likely are either living with epilepsy or have recovered from it, or are probably following Jeff's Instagram Stages of Epilepsy platform. So for that reason alone, if you hear any information, if you're watching this show and you don't suffer from epilepsy and you're hearing us run the gamut of different medications and do not understand, don't let that be the basis of making you switch your ongoing medication regimen for whatever other issues you may be dealing with. So as a disclaimer, think that our conversation is very organic in nature, targeting those individuals living with epilepsy. And for those that are not living with it, learn from us and our experiences so that you can see what our group of individuals are living with in terms of social stigma, as well as the medical juggernaut of trying to balance out your treatment, especially when there might be other solutions depending on the individual. All right, that all being said, you guys were going through the whole gamut of medications, and I can only
I was just reminding her of some medications.
Yes.
So many people will mention this medication. I had this side effect on that medication, this side effect on another medication. But you were talking about stigma, and a lot of people, they're saying, "Well, what is stigma?" And it's a negative social attitude or discrimination against someone. And a lot of times people want us to describe it. But the strengths that a person with epilepsy has is still not enough for a person when they are considering many different things in society. And that's epilepsy has been attached to stigma for so long. You have to keep that in mind. It's
yes.
really why we're trying to fight it, and Awareness Month and Awareness Week, because really there's awareness everything these days. So it's like people kind of like shrug it off, because what, why am I going to spread awareness for Pop-Tarts or something, like that, something simple.
Well, I mean, the reality is that stigma is always attributed to when most people, let's just say the normal group, as they say, like the normal curve, that don't fit into our category of individuals live with some form of neurological disability. They just don't understand it. It's like if you're a sober person that never drinks or takes drugs and you're dealing with an alcoholic or you're dealing with a drug addict, they're going to have a stigma attached to them. Stigmas are attributed to people that they just don't have any understanding. They don't have the ability to understand from lack of experience, and they're probably not educated in the whole lifestyle issues that people with epilepsy face. So there's the one aspect where stigma is a negative based on no information at all and the unwillingness for people to get clarity. And then there is stigma as education for those living with it, where we can learn to use it as a strength in combating those individuals that want to just attribute negative projections when it just really means that those are people you don't need in your life. So when stigma becomes a weapon, it's as a defense, not a weapon, that's the wrong word. When it becomes a good defense model for yourself is when it helps you filter out those individuals or those groups of people that are just not going to be beneficial to your way of life while moving forward. Speaking about moving forward, we're headed for our first commercial break. But
I just wanted to mention, what is our objective as people with epilepsy? The worldwide view of epilepsy hasn't changed in so long. And what is the reason for that? There is an uncomfortable feeling that comes into the air as soon as we mention the word epilepsy, and around even the kindness of people and even people that want to do the right thing. So people are interested in you and as a person on a deeper level. And of course, epilepsy has nothing to do with that. So it's just it's just something I wanted to throw in there when it comes to stigma.
Yeah, and absolutely. When we come back, we're going to flesh that out even more because, as you know, stigma is associated with many people with different illnesses. Everyone knows that COVID was such a stigma that it became a political divide in our country. So that in itself is a lesson for segment 2, where we're going to talk about the whole nature of stigma and the impact it has on individuals. We, as epileptic individuals, have the ability to differentiate it and clarify it for those listening to the show. So, ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned to this episode of Frank About Health, a Stages of Epilepsy podcast version where we discuss stigma and epilepsy. We'll be back in a few.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on TalkRadio.nyc.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mara Broncu, host of The Hard Skills on TalkRadio.nyc at 1 p.m. Eastern on Fridays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern on TalkRadio.nyc.
What really drives success in business? Introducing Intangify, the show that explores the intangible assets that create value and growth. I'm Matthew Asbell, your host and an attorney focused on innovation. Join me Fridays at noon Eastern to discover how innovation, culture, and other intangibles shape thriving companies from startups to established businesses. We'll share strategies to unleash your business's true potential. Tune in live on TalkRadio.nyc Fridays at noon Eastern and Intangify your business today.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back. By the way, this show is currently aired on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, in addition to the audio version on TalkRadio.nyc. If you're currently listening live and you are able to comment on anything you hear today, by all means, if you're on Twitch or LinkedIn or YouTube and you have the ability to communicate, please ask your questions, make your comments, and we'll try to do our best to answer them live here. Otherwise, Jeff, you brought up a lot of good points about stigma. Stigma in itself can be confusing, no matter how many times either you or I try to advocate for people living with it. Stigma is just that, a negative brand that people are attributed to because they're different, quote unquote, different. But we are all different. You know, we try to normalize or come up with the collective haves and have-nots, if you will, or those people that are considered normal by certain social standards that are set up really by the culture of the moment. But the irony is that for the 3 years, we were all living under a global pandemic, which stigmatized the world, essentially, and tried to find blame on where did it come from? Who created it? Was it true? Was it a hoax? Are the vaccines going to cure us? Are they going to kill us? Blah, 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 blah. The thing is that what makes everyone more clear about the disorder itself, and in this case, epilepsy, is when people take time to reflect and understand the nuances of the disorder, of the treatments, where it may come from, what social attributes or dysfunctions does the individual patient have to face, whether it's physical, whether it's emotional, whether it is social. Now, instead of stigmatizing people, one would do themselves a better service, not only the individual living with it, but the individual associating with a person living with it, by learning exactly what the quality of life is for an individual with epilepsy, just like as we all tried to learn what it was like to get COVID or survive it somehow, right? So the thing is while stigma is defined in the dictionary, as you, I think, eloquently said, Jeff, a negative attribute based on a difference of an individual circumstance, whatever it's written as. Stigma
Yeah, I
is
mean
just
that's just from the internet, and but really we try to normalize epilepsy and say you can express and say that I have epilepsy to people, but then will society, an employer, hold, or maybe a potential dating partner? That's why I wrote my book about intimacy. Will they hold it against us? That is my question. It's been around for so long and been associated with names like the sacred disease, and although Hippocrates didn't believe epilepsy was any more divine than other diseases, he did believe that it was unique. He has moved the fields of neuroscience and neurology. Epilepsy has moved those fields forward and helped experts make discoveries about the brain. The hippocampus and amygdala, to be exact, are two examples.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was saying it's also difficult because it's not visible. It's not a visible thing. So if you just say to someone, if you cancel a plan last minute, or, you just say not feeling great, so you're cutting a queue to get out of a place quicker, people are going to look at you like this, you're being rude or it's not okay. And you feel bad also, because everyone's sort of looking at you like you're doing this really wrong thing.
Yeah.
Correct. And based on what both of you said, based on what both of you just said, stigma is not attributed by those who thoroughly understand what epilepsy is, whether you are the medical professional or whether you are the individual living with it. The only basis for stigma is lack of knowledge, lack of education, lack of understanding, and one who probably grew up under conditions of bias or prejudice, limited thinking, not willing to change, not willing to look at the bigger picture. And so one can consider stigma an attribute of those that are limited. We wouldn't say mentally ill, but we would say limited individuals that only want to know so much, and then that's it. For the individual living with the condition, if they are not able to withstand the stigma, it's just a subtle message saying this individual or this group of people are not for you. If you want to live a better quality of life, you want to surround yourself around people who are open to your limitations and work with you to live the best life you can, even if you have seizures in front of them, so forth
Yeah, well,
and so on.
and I want to mention that so many times people don't want to understand epilepsy. It's such an intimidating disorder. It's such a scary disorder. Shocking when you see a seizure for the first time. People are really taken back by it. Of course, some episodes might be more shocking than others, and the circumstances might have something to do with it. But some of the people in our lives don't understand the routine. They don't understand what someone with epilepsy is going through to survive. I've mentioned that with so many people I've talked to, and they sometimes need someone to be supportive during their seizure, but other times they need to be left alone because the postictal is so unpredictable. You never know how you're going to react.
Yeah.
Exactly. But the way that we can learn to use stigma as our advantage, because we are living with it. So as a result, we're living with a secret. They don't understand it, though whoever they are. I'm not giving anyone any particular blame here. The thing is that they don't understand it, but that's their problem, not yours. What you then look at is if you understand it because you're living with it, you're taking the medication for it, you're seeing your doctors about it, you're getting tested for it, then you figure out how do you use it as your secret weapon, as your strength for your career, your personal life, your friendships, your family, or better yet, what you and I are both doing, Jeff. We're advocating for those living with epilepsy. We're making our livelihoods, our careers, our campaigns towards creating change and making it more acceptable. The irony, which I was saying earlier about COVID, is when COVID came, epilepsy is now something that people can just talk about like they talk about the common cold. You don't see the stigma as intense as you did 3 or 4 years ago. I don't know if you're noticing that, Jeff.
No, I mean, I'm not really sure. I don't. I'm not as social as I was in my 20s and early 30s. I mean, now I'm getting a little bit older. Really, young people are going to take it from here. I'm hoping that I made a difference, and I just leave a few wisdom tidbits here and there. I mean, I feel like I'm the last generation. It's other people have to take over. I mean, when it comes to finding new ideas, because I'm just bringing the purple tree of life here. For all you spiritual purple warriors out there for Epilepsy Awareness Month, may the symbol of the tree of life bring healing to illness, cures to diseases that don't yet have cures, like epilepsy. Point us in the right direction towards medicinal treatments.
Correct.
We have this slogan of cure epilepsy, but anyone with a brain can develop epilepsy, and that's something a message that we have to keep spreading.
True. Well, I could just tell you one of the aspects. I know you talk about the younger generation and stuff, but the medical profession, the people at the NYU Langone Comprehensive Epilepsy Center, for example, are looking at the genetic solutions for curing epilepsy. I think I mentioned to you back in April when we did a show together with Danielle Swanson that there is a new mRNA vaccine being tested to stop seizures altogether. Of course, it'll probably be a year or two out.
You still have to be careful when you're trying to change people's DNA. I still think you need to be very skeptical, need to be very careful.
Don't confuse mRNA with changing DNA.
I understand that, but
that's the genome project.
Anything where it could impact the genetic sequence. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but really, I think you have to be very skeptical of, anything that you're trying to change the whatever it might be. If there's side effects of these medications that already have, I don't know, a lot of side effects. You don't want to throw something else in there that might be even more severe.
And it's the brain also, so it can do anything.
Yes.
Damage the brain really badly, which you don't want.
Or other major organs too. Could damage the heart too.
Yeah. But Jeff, just in the interest of time, I just want Madhu to talk about her experience with the stigma, because even though what I'm saying is that the medical profession is going to come to a point where epilepsy will be common, just like looking at your heart, but we don't have to worry about that in the immediate future. We just have to know that there is a white light at the end of the tunnel, if you will. But Madhu, you were telling me the negative experience you had at your university there in Switzerland, you said?
Yeah.
Okay,
It was
but
in Switzerland, yeah.
have you since that time been able to overcome other stigma-related events?
I've actually even here faced some in restaurants where I had a grandma in a restaurant, and because sometimes you tend to shriek before the
Yes.
seizure.
Yes.
So they threw them out while I was having the seizure. They threw us out. So I was in the middle of it, and
They threw you,
said,
but were you even conscious when they threw
No.
you out?
no, I just came out of it sitting on the side of the road and shaking, and that's all I remember. So they told
Wow.
I had gone with my mother and a friend and her mother, and we were all sitting there, and I just said to my mother, I'm going to have a partial one. And I usually just get those and I'm out of it, and then I reorient and everything. And because of the noise and because the others were uncomfortable and staring, they came to them and said, you have to leave the restaurant right now. You're causing a scene. So they said, can't you see? We can't do anything. She's having a fit, like a seizure. We can't do anything. And they said, sorry, you have to leave, pick her up and go. So they had to sort of, by then I think I was frothing, but not shaking too much. So they dragged me out and sat me on the side of the road.
Horrible.
And I was just sitting on the side of the road. Next thing I knew, I was on the side. And then they put me in a taxi and took me home.
Well, one takeaway right there is that basically, depending upon where you're having your seizure, it depends on the culture you're in, whether it is the restaurant or the university or the country or the social group that is going to give that experience a different interpretation. So it can be a fun joyride that no one asked for. I'm sorry, say that again.
This is in London. So I was quite surprised. Heart of London. I was sitting on the street and it was scary. And I also find, for me, my friends and family are very supportive, but I always feel embarrassed at the end of it when I have them in public, because I feel I've embarrassed them. And they've never said this and they never feel like it. And they're
the looks of people's faces, are ingrained in our brains when we,
when you come out of it,
you see that face of like
wrong, like with you, and they're just staring at you, the others. So I feel so bad. So I'm apologizing to everyone the second I come out of it, because I'm embarrassed and I'm worried I've embarrassed them. So, you just feel, and they keep telling me to stop saying that, because they are not feeling anything.
It's all the perception. But we're about to take another break, and I'm going to share my own experiences to show you that there's fun in that, which you can learn to embrace in the future if, God forbid, you end up in those situations again. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in a few. Please stay tuned.
Are you passionate about the conversation around racism? Hi, I'm Reverend Dr. TLC, host of the Dismantle Racism Show, which airs every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on TalkRadio.nyc. Join me and my amazing guests as we discuss ways to uncover, dismantle, and eradicate racism. That's Thursdays at 11 o'clock a.m. on TalkRadio.nyc.
In a post-COVID world, you may have many unanswered questions regarding your health. Are you looking to live a healthier lifestyle? Do you have a desire to learn more about mental health and enhance your quality of life? Or do you just want to participate in self-understanding and awareness? I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each Thursday, I will tackle these questions and work to enlighten you. Tune in every Thursday at 5 p.m. on TalkRadio.nyc, and I will be frank about health to advocate for all of us.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on TalkRadio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on TalkRadio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back. We just had a very engaging conversation on the whole stigma experiences that both Jeff and Madhu have had. So I figure, in honor of my birthday, I'll share you mine because I've learned to be creative every time that those circumstances have happened in the past. Now, one particular seizure, which actually was my official diagnosis, was the one that almost led to my own drowning in my bathtub, and that was about 38 years ago. So either way, I just remember coming out of the experience and staring at a cop or an EMT worker because the ambulance had been sent in. And I looked at them and I said, "What the hell are you doing here?" I don't know. Maybe I was just trying to be defensive at the same time, but I turned it into a comedy routine. Now, maybe that was my way of not feeling as embarrassed, which I did, of course. But at the same time, it was my way of making them take this less seriously than it was made to be. Because you can understand how people who don't have the disorder, especially even the EMT workers, when they see you going through the seizure, they don't know if you're in the middle of a stroke or a heart attack. They just know that you're moving all about and they want to prevent you from falling off the gurney or wherever you are sitting at the time. But you try to make it light for them as well as for yourself. And I think that became the benchmark for every other attack I had in front of large audiences. Another attack that I had was in the middle of St. Patrick's Cathedral back in 2005. I had just crossed the street. Can you imagine if I had the seizure in the middle of the street on oncoming traffic? So let's just say that that was divine intervention that prevented that from happening. So all I remember is when I woke up with my head banged on the stairs going up to St. Patrick's Cathedral, I did have to go to the hospital to get sutures put in here, staples, but it was a little cut. It wasn't a major cracked experience. My reaction was, I don't believe this happened again. I was on the way to work. What the hell is this about? And I said to the ambulance driver, look, you know what? There are better hospitals in the city than the one you're about to take me to. You notice I'm not mentioning the hospital names. That's for a good reason. The point is that take me to this one because at least you'll find that it's a nice joyride back home. And then I noticed that when my phone rang, I calmed down and I was completely back in focus. For some reason, for me, bells, buzzers, doorbells, whatever they are, it just snaps me back into place. So I began to observe my post-ictal state, which is what that all refers to. It is a moment of creativity if you learn to own your epilepsy. Now, the reason why I bring that up, and those are just two of many examples, but in the interest of time, I wanted to just show you that in your case, Madhu, while you had those embarrassing circumstances like with the restaurant, there is the feeling of, oh, I didn't mean to embarrass you. I'm sorry this happened. Use that as your moment of, let's use this as a moment of entertainment and knowledge and education if you can. So ironically, I also went and got my master's degree in neuropsychology, and I was doing my thesis on epilepsy and depression. So when it became a part of my education, I would use my seizure moments as a teaching moment or as a lesson for those people watching me go through it, or even if there were fellow epileptics in the room. And lo and behold, I've learned to master the art of living life with epilepsy. I don't look at it as a stigma anymore. And if someone is going to attribute a stigma to me because of it, then you are not in my life. You're not meant to be in my life.
Yeah.
And if you can't stomach it, and if you're embarrassed by it, bye. You got to go now.
And Madhu, you said that you had a lot of traveling experiences, adventurous experiences, and you have some coping mechanisms, I'm sure, for doing all that because the pressure changes in the plane can be a big trigger for people. Do you have any coping mechanisms?
For me, actually, the pressure change doesn't bother me. It's more the crowds when you travel and when I can't queue up, I can't feel closed in. Makes me feel like I'm in an MRI machine. And I sort of lose it. I start sweating and have severe anxiety. So I find it very difficult when I get off the plane to go through the, immigration. And huge queue. It takes hours. And they just turn in such a way that you're all herded, so those are the things that I can't handle. It's the check-in process, the
I mean, traveling is very stressful these days, going through security and being all cramped up. Everybody gets stressed traveling. And
you have to make sure you have a prescription as well. Yeah. If you forget the prescription, then your medicines are held
I mean, medication is usually my first priority when I'm traveling somewhere.
Yes, exactly. So I find I travel a lot. I like to go to new places, and I travel alone a lot.
And usually people with epilepsy, they don't travel alone. That's unusual.
Yeah, it was actually, I think after I closed my during the restaurant, I needed a break at one point. So I decided I was going somewhere. So I went to Bali for a week, playing it safe. Nice. Because I just stayed first in one resort on the beach, and then I went to another hotel up in the mountains, which was, they did naturopathic treatment. So put me on a diet for 1 week, like a detox. So that was my first solo holiday. And then when I closed my restaurant, I traveled for 2.5 months and decided I was going to learn how to ski and go surfing. Now, surfing wouldn't be the ideal thing for anyone with epilepsy.
Well, yes. No, but a lot of people, they want to be outdoorsy people. And one of the most famous people I think of is Teddy Roosevelt. He said, that's what controlled his seizures. He had seizures. He lived with seizures.
Yeah. No, for me, when I travel, actually, my seizures reduce because they are triggered mostly by stress. So when I'm feeling relaxed, I still have my seizures, but there'll be one, and I know when it's coming, so I move away. And then if I have one, say, at night, the next day I cancel my entire day. To be safe.
Oh, yeah, because of the soreness or the need to recharge your batteries.
Yeah, even if it's the mildest partial seizure, the next day I cancel my surfing, I cancel my reservations, I cancel any, the bookings for lunch. So I don't have any plans, and then I decide how to go out that day. I might go out for a coffee and come back, rest, so I pace it like that.
And there's also something called the kindling effect. If you have one seizure, it's possible you might have another one.
Yeah, and I usually have a few over 2 or 3 days when I do get them.
Yeah, so seizure clusters,
Yeah, so it can either be one partial seizure or 10. And so I need to really be careful at that time for those 2 days. Once, if it happens, say on a Monday, and then on Tuesday I don't have any, then Wednesday I start going out again. But Monday, Tuesday, if I have them, then Wednesday I still have to be a little careful.
Interesting.
So it's like that. So even here now, when I go out, then if I'm going out on seizure days, if I have to go out, I might take an Uber and not the underground, or not walk. Because if you walk on the street, again, it's dangerous to cross the road having it.
When I'm recovering from a seizure, I lay in bed all day. I really need a day off.
Yeah, no. And I am so exhausted sometimes when I have more than that. I know if I've had it in my sleep, when I wake up, your whole body it feels like you have some high temperature and you can't do anything.
Oh, yeah, your body aches, especially after a grand mal, after convulsions.
Yeah. No, so
it's not only the muscles contracting back and forth, but it's also the electricity that has gone throughout your entire body.
And I would have chewed some part of my mouth when I wake up, so I already know that something has been off. So then I just cancel the day and stay in.
And you need to sleep to heal. And I always say that it's your brain putting itself back together again.
The difference actually after I've come off the medication is that when I have the seizures, I can't sleep. I'm exhausted, but I can't sleep. When I was on the medication, when I had the seizures, I'd sleep for 18 hours. And then wake up feeling sick, but now since I'm not on the medication, I can't sleep. I'm awake every half an hour. If the slightest noise in the room, and I jump up because the anxiety is very high. And when I was on the 2000, I was on anti-anxiety, antidepressant, now I have to feel all that. So for me, after even one seizure, it takes me a week to get back on my feet. So I go out and do things, but I'm always depressed and anxious when I go out the whole week.
Well, I think a lot of people with epilepsy, it's because they don't sleep the whole night through. And that is a huge reason. And a lot of people will say that to you.
Yeah.
They have nocturnal seizures. They might have small seizures during the night.
So it's difficult. And with the anxiety for me, I'm just so on edge. So initially, earlier, I was not in a very nice job. So when the anxiety was so high that I'd have to go and stay at a friend's house for 2 days, just to know there was someone in the other room. I still wouldn't sleep. And
so
now, yeah, sorry.
No. This is very interesting because I'm looking at your situation, and you sounds like you have a combination of grand mal and partial seizures.
Yes.
But so you are also medication controlled, right?
No. So the grand mal seizures are only if I'm very stressed. So that's why that happened in a restaurant last year when I was at this bad job.
Right.
Now it's better. So
do you think that the grand mal seizures then are attributed to some form of PTSD or stress disorder that you've obtained as a result of living life with epilepsy?
Because since my seizures are triggered mostly by stress, my once in 2 weeks I'm going to have a seizure. It's been happening from the time I was 14 years old. But they're not the grand mal seizures. So I'm going to have a partial seizure once in 2 weeks.
And there's so many traumatic components of epilepsy. So many things, from acceptance to the everyday struggle. There is injury, anxiety, losing your job or license, the responses from other people, the looks on your faces, like you were saying before, and it just sticks with you.
Yeah.
We're about to take our final break, but one closing thought is that we just have to learn to look at the stigma as a message about the individual or group that it's coming from, not internalize it and beat ourselves up with it, because we're only manifesting further seizures, for one, in addition to aggravating our own mental health. So please stay tuned, and when we return, we will wrap up with whatever events that Jeff is involved in, as well as learn more about what Madhu is involved in her social media world, or anything else that she can do to help those living life with epilepsy and the stigma associated with it. We'll be back in a few.
What really drives success in business? Introducing Intangify, the show that explores the intangible assets that create value and growth. I'm Matthew Asbell, your host and an attorney focused on innovation. Join me Fridays at noon Eastern to discover how innovation, culture, and other intangibles shape thriving companies, from startups to established businesses. We'll share strategies to unleash your business's true potential. Tune in live on TalkRadio.nyc, Fridays at noon Eastern, and Intangify your business today.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on TalkRadio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on TalkRadio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on TalkRadio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back. Now, basically, Jeff, you saw that I just showed your upcoming event in Toms River. Do you want to elaborate on it? and promote
Yes,
it and talk about
I'm
how people
having
can get
a
more
book
information?
signing and an epilepsy sharing session on November 18th. So come join us in Toms River. We set up a venue made for Epilepsy Awareness Month. It's colored with purple, and we have flyers and all these other things that are just spread awareness about epilepsy. It's invisible illness advocacy as well. So I've arranged there to be plenty of epilepsy pamphlets and safety first aid about seizures, so you can take it with you, stuff like that. Also, we're going to have a neurofeedback demonstration, a treatment that has been proven scientifically to work for ADHD, closely connected to epilepsy. So, and it's an evolving event. More and more people are getting involved, but of course, I'm going to be selling my book there, and part of the proceeds go to the Toms River Community Center that I'm having it at. So, and Josie's going to be there with her book, and possibly Taryn Nicole. She has her book. It's invisible illness related, but not epilepsy. And we might have others. We just haven't gotten that far, but it just not so much that they could have it in the advertisement, unfortunately. But yeah, but more and more people want to come. So, and more people want to share their artwork. So we're hoping that a lot of people come, and refreshments included.
Very good, very good.
Yeah. So
now, Madhu, in terms of stigma, do you find that to be predominantly what is in your forefront of living your life with seizures, or are the stress triggers still work related? Are they work related or social related? Oh, unmute. Unmute.
Sorry, it's
No problem.
social and work. So if there's some, when I say social, I mean, if I have an issue personally with people,
Stigma, yeah.
then yes, I do. And then I stop talking to, not to do with my epilepsy. I mean, generally, I have an argument with someone who's I'm very sensitive to energies in the room, energy from people.
Right.
So
right.
if they're bringing negative energy or draining me or anything, then I keep a distance from them.
Yes.
So even that now I'm being very careful.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me about the shows that we've done together, Jeff, on narcissism. I mean, narcissistic individuals tend to drain a lot of energy at any given time for whatever reason. It's the neediness of those individuals, neediness of validation, neediness of attention, among other reasons. And of course, we as epileptic individuals who can become naturally empathic because we are aware of our auras, for example,
and you can just feel that negativity when someone negative with a negative vibe comes into the room, and you absorb it, and it makes you
and then you go home feeling like so tired and exhausted, drained, and just ill.
Yes.
Yeah. So I've been working on that. I've been
working on picking it up and understanding it better. I mean, the thing is that you can use that your own body basically as a litmus test to determine if you're around a narcissist. The way I look at it is that if you are dealing with an individual who is not really the best type of individual to be around with, even if you were not suffering from seizures, what gives us the advantage is that since we are and we can feel it more readily, we just know the red flags are much brighter for us.
Yes.
So that's where the stigma actually is a message for us to do something with it. And that's what I'm trying to keep reinforcing throughout the show, that whenever living your life with a stigma, try to use it as a message that you need to do something with rather than be attacked by it and allow your system to shut down or go into seizures or whatever. I mean, if anything, over the last 99 episodes, this show has been doing its best to advocate for things like epilepsy, but also other diseases, cancer, COVID, leukemia, diabetes, the list goes on. and I've had to
anxiety. You can't leave out anxiety. I mean, because this, society has the anxiety and depression rates have risen so much.
Well, yeah, but one can also say that has all been post-COVID. All of our hypervigilance is up.
And COVID actually worked to my benefit.
Yes.
Because that's when I came off my 2000 milligrams. So the whole 2 years I was coming off the medication. So there were no other commitments. And my family were all right there through the whole thing to support me.
Yes.
And I didn't realize that I'd actually been living like a drug addict. Because when I came off it, I thought I was losing my mind. I lost about 15 kilos because I couldn't eat. And for 15 days, I wouldn't eat and I'd be sweating and I'd have breakdowns where I'd be punching the walls and screaming because my head would be exploding and I'd be scared. And
that's another thing that's been normalized is alcoholism and drug addiction. They say it's okay, just do what you want to feel better. But really, you kind of have to tint your head a little bit on that and say, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
Well, I would say the biggest lesson for anyone living with epilepsy is that we do know it is based on what's going on in our brain. And it is our brain that is the driver of our lives when it comes to any health issue. And alcoholism is a health issue, indirectly speaking. So if anything, we can become the best potential advocates, especially in healthcare, for family, friends, colleagues, loved ones, whatever. But it never works until you've taken care of yourself first.
Yeah.
So that would be my birthday message and gift to everyone out there. Take care of yourself first before you take care of anyone else. Okay. Either way, what else are you, Madhu, involved in your work life or social media, website? I mean,
are you doing any
advocacy? Yeah,
I've started painting. So I do expressionism. So whatever's in my head, I'm putting on paper. So it's just my feelings and it's reduced my seizures by half.
Very nice.
And I'm also working toward being a cricketer.
Oh, the sport, cricket.
Cricket, yes.
Okay.
So I've been training quite, it's quite intense, the training. But I find when I exercise and do things like that, the adrenaline and all keeps my energy.
Are you a professional player or?
I'm training to be a professional player. So
okay.
Hopefully next year I will be playing at a professional level for county or something in London.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Are we going to see you on the news? BBC Europe?
The matches, if I'm selected, then the matches will be on television. So televised.
Oh, okay. Wow.
That's right. You're coming from London right now, right?
Yes.
So for you, it's almost 11 p.m.
Yeah.
Oh, well, have a spot of tea before you go to sleep. Oh, wow. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are about two and a half minutes before signing off. So I want to thank, obviously, Jeff for another good episode of the Stage of Epilepsy, Frank About Health episode. And then Madhu for your story, because if anything, while you haven't come in with an example of a book or a podcast or anything, you came in with what's like living a relatively positive life while combating all the social stigmas around you. And that in itself is a skill set. I mean, if there's a benefit of having seizures, it's having an inner strength that a lot of people have to learn the hard way, but you haven't. So that all being said, I want to sign off by giving an announcement of tomorrow's slate of shows. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., we start with Philanthropy in Focus with Tommy D. 11 o'clock at Stephen Fry's Always Friday. Closing out the week at 12 o'clock with Intangify and Matthew Asbell. On Tuesday, we have a 5 p.m. with The Hard Skills and Dr. Mira Branco. And next Thursday, after you see your weekly episode of Dismantle Racism with Dr. Tara Lynn Curry, and of course the Conscious Consultant Hour, you will with Sam Leibowitz, you will see the 100th episode of Frank About Health, and it will be live from Chicago. So I'm looking forward to.
It just says Dismantle Racism is on hiatus right now.
Well then, basically, after you hear this Conscious Consultant Hour, I'll be there at 5 p.m. next Thursday with the 100th episode. So I hope you all stay tuned because it's going to be in a nice venue in Chicago. Thank you to the two of you for being on this show.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
if
Thank you.
I basically want to go ahead and reach out to you, Madhu. I usually do that by phone, but I don't think I have your number. So what I will do is I will email you in about an hour, hour and a half when I get home and tell you my feedback. And hopefully we'll have you on the show again in the near future.
I'd love to be. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much for having me.
It
Thank
was my pleasure. And of course, Jeff, we will be talking about our next show, which more than likely at this point is going to be in the new year, because after next week, I'm going to be on hiatus as well.
Okay. Very good.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we're signing off right now. Thanks for watching Frank About Health, and we'll see you next week.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mara Broncu, host of The Hard Skills on TalkRadio.nyc at 1 p.m. Eastern on Fridays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern on TalkRadio.nyc.